We're an indie publisher based in Edinburgh. We publish about 30 to 40 new books a year, and Gill's is one of our leading titles this year. Long awaited since her first book, How to Win at Work, which was a great success, dare I say. And I've had the pleasure of working quite closely with Gill on this book, and I have to say, you all need to buy it, you all need to read it. There's so much you can take from it, and I'm sure you'll hear more about that from Gill herself. So thank you again for coming, and I'll pass over to Gill.
Thank you, Kira. Can you all hear me okay? Yes. Thank you so much for being here for this launch event for the second book. The first book was launched in the middle of lockdown, so we didn't get to do an event like this, and I was really sad about that. So it's extra special to see you all here in the real world, crammed into the real world, into this absolutely gorgeous bookshop. I can't talk about this book without talking about my first book, which was Why Men Win at Work. Why Men Win at Work? Because if I'd written How to Win at Work and then the How to Win at Work book, I think people, I don't know, that's Why Men Win at Work. Yeah. Anyway, I can't talk about this book without talking about that book. I had a very nice, long career at P&G, and for over 20 years, I thought I was immune to the gender inequality issue. I thought I was immune. And then I got to the senior vice president level, and I realised that I was not. At that level, for the first time in my life, I'm in a male-dominant culture. I never had been before. I'm in board meetings, exec meetings that are 80% plus men, and I finally understood how difficult it is to be a woman in that culture. And I'm really sorry I didn't understand it before, but that's when I understood it, how difficult it is to feel comfortable, to feel relaxed, to perform at your best, and to be valued for what you can bring. So actually I was quite fascinated by the dynamics because I didn't understand them at that time. I do now, but I didn't understand them at that time. So I read a lot of books and a lot of research to try to understand. And what I realized the more I read was, of course, it wasn't me, and it wasn't P&G, and it wasn't the men around me. They were mostly good, decent men with good intentions, mostly. It wasn't them. Everywhere that I looked, every data that I looked at, every country, every industry, business, sport, politics, everything, no matter how equal that the organisation started out at the bottom, by the top, it was 90% plus men in the senior leadership positions. 5% of global CEOs are women. 9% of heads of state. So I had an exploding head at this point. My head was exploding. It was exploding with all this data this horrible data that I had learnt about. It was exploding with frustration. It was, and it still is, exploding with the frustration that women, 50% of the world's population, intelligence, capability, leadership ability, by the way, were only representing less than 10% of the leadership. I was just really irritated by that. And also exploding because by this time I had a really good understanding of why it happens. I had a really good understanding of why it is that we somehow choose the man 9 times out of 10, when arguably we should choose the man 5 times out of 10. But the other 5 times, there should have been a woman that we chose. All those invisible forces that work against women and favour men in the workplace were just whirring around my head. So I had to put it somewhere. So I wrote Why Men Win at Work, and I put it there. And Why Men Win at Work was very much written for women and for men. In many ways it was written more for men actually than it was for women. I knew then, I know now that it is just critical that that men are on board with this. As we've said, Men, you are 90% of the leadership of the world. You take or influence every single decision that's ever made. So frankly, we won't get anywhere on this or on anything without you. And what I knew was that most men don't read classic feminist books. Or if they do read them, page 2, they throw them aside. Most men, looking at Alfie, I think Alfie does. They throw them aside because most feminist books are understandably very angry, and men don't tend to like the anger very much, so they don't really go after that. So I worked really hard on that book. I worked really hard to not be angry and to really engage men in the issue, keep men with me. I worked really hard in the keynotes as well and the workshops. Keep them with me, keep them learning, and get them to the point of, yes, I get this, and this is really, really important. And that did work. It does work to an extent. I've had so many men over the last few years saying, I read your book, I saw your keynote, and I've had an epiphany. I've had an epiphany, the pennies dropped. You've made me understand the gender inequality issue in a way that I never understood it before. And that is fantastic. There really are a lot of what I call feminists out there, and I think most of them in this room probably. So thank you. That is absolutely brilliant, but there are not enough. There are just not enough men who get it, and deeply get it to the point that they are committed to actually doing something about it. Too many men still see this as charity work, gender equality programs, supporting women. It's charity work that you do on the side when there's nothing else on. And as a result, it gets too easily deprioritized. So there's a pandemic, there's a war, there's a president who doesn't believe in women or diversity, for example, and suddenly all the gender equality programs disappear, all the budgets get cut, because there isn't enough of that really, really deep belief in it from most of the men. Now, I still believe, I will always believe that we absolutely need men to be on board. I really believe we won't make progress without it. And I believe that men will come more and more on board. And I think the reason that they will is slowly they will realise that this isn't charity, this is business. This is a business strategy. It grows business. Having women represented in leadership makes organisations stronger. It makes businesses stronger. That is, I'm certain of that, and the data proves that. So men will, all the other men, they will catch up. But in the meantime, women aren't winning at work. We are not winning at work. We are still, 6 years on from the first book being written. We're still not winning at work. We've gone backwards in many senses. But there is something we can do about it as women. While we wait for the men, there are some things that we can do about it. And that's where this book comes in. It's called the How to Win at Work book, an empowering career guide for today's working women. And what I've done is taken everything that I share in my keynotes, my workshops, and retreats, coaching sessions, all of those things, and I've put it all in here. So I take all of those invisible forces that I know hold women back. So the invisible power of culture, the competence versus confidence equation, the umbrella theory, the time gap, the age gap, the lack of sisterhood at senior levels, and many, many more. And I take them and I give, basically in each chapter, insights, career advice, tips, strategies, action plans, exercises, to work through them and overcome them. So it really is like a self-coaching, career guide for women. So this one very much is for women. There's a little chapter in there for men, but this one is absolutely for women, because we need to do something while we wait for all those programs and those budgets to come back. Now, obviously, I've got a ton of my own career advice for you in there, but I also did call upon some incredible experts who work in this field to help with some areas where I know some stuff, and you know me, I'll give an opinion on everything, but some real experts, and a couple of those are here tonight, so I did want to just give them a shout out. Can I get a wave from Sheila Schroeder?
I'm all the way back.
Hey Sheila! So Sheila is the author of It's Time to Talk. She is just brilliant with money, right? So, and every woman should be brilliant with money. So she's got some brilliant tips in there as well. And Rebecca is here. Rebecca, can you give us a wave? Rebecca. Rebecca is in there with some fantastic, this woman knows how to get a pay rise. My God. Rebecca is in there. Rebecca is the founder of an incredible women's network called Peer Suite. I have the honour of being a founding member. Thank you, Rebecca. And if you're not a member, then you should be. It's absolutely brilliant. While we're saying thank yous, is Nigel here?
Yeah.
Nigel, give us a wave. We have to say thank you to Nigel. Nigel is the designer of the cover of Why Men Win at Work and the How to Win at Work book. He's an incredible brand designer. So a huge thank you to Nigel. So tons of career advice in there. I thought that I will just read a little bit, because that's what they do in the films at book launches, isn't it? So I'm going to just do that, because I feel like you sort of have to. Now, can I actually hold the book